Imagine being 6 years old again, and you're supposed to have no troubles in the world. One night, while getting ready for bed, you have the idea that if you don't properly say goodnight to each of your stuffed animals, they will take control of your life and cause something bad to happen. You know it sounds crazy, but you can't help but worry about this thought. When you begin saying goodnight, you immediately start worrying if you've evenly spaced out each goodnight. If not, you feel like you have to start over. Then you start thinking that you need to have the right thought during each goodnight, or else it won't count. You're now trapped in this ritual, possibly for hours, until you're 100% sure your exchanges are perfect. Every night after this, you can't help but follow these unexplainable patterns before going to bed. This is one of the many countless ways that obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, can torment an individual. Specifically, this is just one of the many rituals that OCD sufferer Eric Coopers had to face. Up until now, you probably didn't think that OCD was much more than a simple disorder that makes people want to clean and stay organized. There is, in fact, much more to it. Even though the need to clean is a commonly known manifestation of OCD, many who have not actually experienced the disorder are unaware of how it actually works. In addition, there are some types of OCD that many people don't know about and could probably never imagine. Therefore, today I will begin by giving a broad overview of OCD using information from trusted sources. Following this, I will explain two of the many manifestations of OCD that are not commonly known, which are mental contamination and the fear of being responsible for something terrible happening. During this discussion, I will use trusted sources again, but I will also share my knowledge and experience as someone who has suffered from OCD symptoms for the past 10 years. Essentially, there are two factors of OCD, obsessions and compulsions. According to the International OCD Foundation, obsessions are continuous thoughts, images, or ideas that a person can't help from thinking. These thoughts are unwanted and produce high levels of stress. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, this causes people with OCD to have an urge to repeat behaviors that will alleviate these thoughts and the stress, no matter how ridiculous or irrational. These behaviors are called compulsions. It is important to note that many people who don't have OCD experience obsessions and compulsions as well. What denotes sufferers of OCD from those who don't have the disorder is the fact that obsessions and rituals cause extreme anxiety and severely hinder daily functioning. It can be difficult to go to work, school, and you may want to avoid certain places or activities that trigger obsessive thoughts. The National Institute of Mental Health says that people with OCD generally spend at least 1 hour per day on these thoughts and behaviors. Now that I've given you a general overview of OCD, we're ready to examine two of the many types of OCD that are normally not discussed. First, we'll begin with mental contamination. This type of OCD is triggered when an individual is physically or mentally harmed. According to OCD UK, quote, "It is almost as if they're made to feel like dirt, which creates a feeling of internal uncleanliness," end quote. The intrusive thoughts of feeling unclean mentally would be the obsessive component of this type of OCD. In order to get rid of the mental dirt, an individual will repetitively wash themselves. This is the compulsive behavior. You may be familiar with a certain manifestation of OCD that pertains to feeling dirty only when touching a physical object, like public toilets or door handles. Mental contamination differs in that no physical object is making the person feel dirty. Instead, the mental or physical torment they underwent made them feel dirty mentally. The two contamination manifestations of OCD are similar, in that both experience the compulsion to excessively wash themselves physically. Next, I will explain another manifestation of OCD that I have extensive experience with. Everyone has fears that they will be responsible for causing something terrible to happen, but these fears are generally occasional and rational. Speaking from experience, people with OCD who have this fear usually experience it on a daily basis, and they find it very hard to escape. As you can imagine, this is extremely torturous and causes a great deal of anxiety. You may recognize that this coincides with the story that I gave in the very beginning of my speech. Eric had the irrational fear that his stuffed animals would cause something bad to happen if he didn't follow the rituals. When I was in middle school, I had the same irrational fear that something bad would happen if I wasn't thinking the right thoughts while writing. If I didn't have the right thoughts, I would have to erase what I wrote and start over completely. And of course, if you're telling yourself to not have bad thoughts, you will have bad thoughts since you're obsessing over it. So this cycle of writing, erasing, would prevent me from finishing tests, and it would even slow down my learning. The need to erase the words that I wrote when I thought of something bad would be the compulsion aspect of this type of OCD. There are countless other ways that this manifestation of OCD can take over an individual. To conclude, today I have taught you about OCD in a general sense, and I've also familiarized you with two forms of OCD that are bizarre and disturbing, yet intriguing at the same time. My hope today was for you to realize that people with OCD undergo unexplainable battles that induce anxiety and disrupt daily life. As you can imagine, it is terribly difficult for OCD sufferers to not feel alone, since they are often too ashamed to talk to loved ones about their abnormal behavior. I hope that I have given you better insight into this highly misunderstood disorder. Thank you.